Welcome back everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I was thinking of doing an Ambergris spectrum video, but I actually decided against it at the last minute because I believe that Ambergris deserves a bit more attention. And also there's a lot of confusion over terms such as amber, ambergris, grey amber and ambra in perfume terminology. So I'm going to clarify some of that for you. I'm also going to pull from my collection 10 or 11 ambergris rich fragrances to highlight very briefly. And that's because it's an area of perfumery that I am very interested in and I've explored for the last 10 or 15 years. And I want to kind of communicate to you some of those ambergris fragrances which use true ambergris and some of those which use synthetic ambergris. So first up, I have to describe for you what is the difference between amber and ambergris. I did touch on this in some of my previous videos, but I think it needs a bit of a highlight here. So amber in fragrance terminology refers to this stuff, this hardened yellow tree sap. If you've ever been out in the forest and you've found a tree which is sort of bubbling with orange or brown resin or sap, that sap hardens over time or is fossilized over many, many hundreds of thousands of years. And if you break that off and put it into a fire or burn it over coals, it will release a honeyed kind of perfume on the air. That is vegetal amber, so that's amber. Ambergris though is a whale byproduct. Now, if you believe that ambergris is whale poo or whale vomit, then you've probably been deceived. Experts believe, because I've never witnessed a whale vomit ambergris or a whale poop ambergris, they believe that it is a result of the whale dying. And what happens is the male sperm whale has a diet of cuttlefish, and these cuttlefish have indigestible hard beaks that get lodged in the intestinal tract of the whale. Now, over time, the whale kind of secretes this waxy, milky secretion to try and coat this, bundle of indigestible beaks that are caught in the intestinal tract. And over time, this sort of softens it, and this blob kind of remains in the whale's digestive tract, getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time a coating of that secretion coats those beaks and things. Now, over time, that will grow so large that eventually it'll block the digestive tract and the whale will perish as a result. So if you can imagine this poor whale dead, floating around in the sea, being torn apart by sharks and pecked at by seagulls and other carrion, it's sort of pulled apart, and this large indigestible blob of ambergris is then released into the ocean, and it bobs around for many, many years until one day it washes up on the shore and someone gets very lucky and very rich from finding it. That's then tinctured into an ambergris perfume. So I hope that really helps you understand the difference between amber and ambergris. If you see the term ambra or grey amber, then that's referring to the whale product as well. Ambergris, grey amber and ambra are all referring to the whale's product. So now we've done that, let's take a look at some ambergris fragrances, and I'm going to start with one which was released in the 1960s, and it was one that really became iconic in terms of animal products and things like that back in the day, and that's one by Alyssa Ashley called Ambergris, and it was made with the French company Houbigant. So we'll go there first. So in the 1960s, art, fashion and music really played a big part in the direction that perfume took. The youth at the time were, I guess, tired of their parents' complicated and sophisticated perfumes, and they wanted something more natural. So all those flower children and hippies of the time really took to essential oils. Patchouli oil, for example, and it was Alyssa Ashley back in 1969 who really tapped into that market, producing musk oil, which became and is still her best-selling perfume. Musk oil was then followed quickly by civet oil and ambergris oil, and it was the ambergris oil that everyone loved and is very, very rare to find today. I have a bottle of the Ambergris spray mist, and this was made with Alyssa Ashley and Houbigant in collaboration. It's really interesting. As far as ambergris is concerned, it has a very wide spectrum of quality, going from quite fecal to quite briny and sea-like to very velvety and soft. And I think ambergris in this instance was really trying to accommodate that soft velvety feel. I highly doubt that there's true ambergris in this formula, but what it does is it really gives an insight into how good ambergris can smell. This has little notes of musk and pepper and citrus attached to it, but it's got a wonderful velvety texture. It is one of those highly sought after versions of early ambergris, and you can probably pay close to $600 or $700 for a bottle of this on the internet today. Is it worth it? I'm not entirely sure. I love having it in my collection because it really puts a pin in the map at the very beginning of that timeline when people love to wear these type of fragrances. But I think ambergris has been done a lot better since. We're going to move on now to Alyssa Ashley's 2014 re-release of ambergris, which was done not so long ago. So Alyssa Ashley's modern iteration of ambergris is this one in the gold bottle here. It was created in 2012 under the Perris Monte Carlo group, and it plays into that soft velvety amber again. I doubt there's ambergris in this too, but it does again sort of give you an abstract of ambergris when it's in its finest form. This one's underpinned with rose and jasmine, there's sandalwood, there's vanilla and labdanum. It does make for another version of that creamy, beautiful white ambergris that we find. And that actually brings me to a point. The whiter the ambergris, or the more golden the ambergris that you might find washed up on the beach, the better the quality. If you have brown or dark ambergris, it's going to smell more fecal. So yeah, perfumers tend to lean more towards the white ambergris in their iterations when they're composing perfumes that are inspired by the scent. Alyssa Ashley's ambergris is actually great. My wife loves it. We wear it a lot in the winter time. It's very diffusive and projection is fantastic. And it can be had just for, $50, $60. So definitely worth seeking out. I did mention that the Perris Monte Carlo group were in conjunction with Alyssa Ashley in producing this perfume. However, they made one of their own, and we're going to touch on that right now. So Perris Monte Carlo released in the same year their very own iteration of ambergris in a very similar box and packaging idea. However, I feel that they were positioning this version of the perfume more at the luxury end of the market. And that was reflected on price and also, I guess, on the quality of the scent. I'm not bad-mouthing the Alyssa Ashley one at all because it's fantastic, but there is an interesting diversity in the two. So Perris's ambergris, it's got great notes in there. There is rose, there's geranium, there's vanilla, artemisia, there's sandalwood, you name it, there's amber. It's beautiful. It's a great version and it's heavier than the Alyssa Ashley version. It feels a little bit more sophisticated and refined as well. Again, we are talking about abstracts of ambergris. None of these that I'm featuring first really, I feel, contain true ambergris. If they do, it would be in very, very small quantities, which I find highly unlikely anyway. However, that being said, they're great to wear, and they also give you a good idea of what ambergris scents can smell like. So we're going to now touch upon another one of our synthetic ambergris fragrances, I suppose, and this one is by Demeter, and it's simply called Ambergris. Now, most of us are aware that Demeter are a perfume library, and what they do is that they reconstruct scents using headspace technology or using synthetics, and they're often single scent perfumes. You can smell cupcakes or funeral home or mothballs, and they produce a perfume for every single one of those individual scents. Ambergris is another, and you know what? For a cheapie, I think this retails around about $30 or so. For a cheapie, I'm actually really liking this iteration of Ambergris. I can't even tell you the notes. Yes, there's vanilla, but I suspect strongly several aroma chemicals like ambroxan and a few other amber focused molecules are in here. This one's another great one for winter. I've sprayed this on scarves before I go out. I spray it on the lining of my jacket occasionally. And yes, it garners compliments. It's quite an interesting, inexpensive ambergris perfume, and it has a wonderful sort of honeyed vanilla cashmere texture to it. So if you're looking at an entry point into ambergris in the synthetic sphere, Demeter's probably the way to go. Now we're going to move on to another synthetic ambergris fragrance, which was created in 2008, Balmain en Ambergris. I was going to say it in French, but I'm terrible with French pronunciation, so Ambergris, we'll just leave it at that. This one was created and back in the day it retailed for around about $100 or slightly less. It then hit the discounters and was reduced to maybe $30 or $40 a bottle, where a lot of people pick them up. Nowadays the demand for this Balmain version is, $400 to $500 a bottle. So it's incredible how demand for these things really increase over time. I can see why though. As far as an abstract of ambergris, it's actually a very nice one. It has great notes with sage, there's myrrh, there's tuberose and frangipani, which are quite unusual, those floral notes underpinning it. And the base also includes sandalwood, there's benzoin and musk. So yeah, a great fragrance and one that is quite diffusive too. I enjoy wearing this. Does it contain true ambergris? Maybe. According to them it does, but I feel like there's a lot of aroma chemicals in here. There might be just a pinch of true ambergris in there. I can't be sure. But as we move away from this one into the next 5 or 6 perfumes I'm going to present, I know that there's true ambergris in these, or I highly suspect there's true ambergris in these. So next up we're going to look at Italian designer Gianfranco Ferré with Bergamotto Marino. In 2005, Gianfranco Ferré released Bergamotto Marino, which was created by Pierre Baudon. Now, this is a great sort of fresh summer fragrance, and it does have that sense of the ocean, hence the name Marino, I suppose. It's got notes in there, quite fruity in the top, which is bergamot and melon. There's also blackcurrant. The heart has jasmine, it has neroli and lily of the valley. And the base has obviously ambergris, there's oak moss and musk. So this is a great one to wear with a crisp white shirt, and it does have a sense of that briny saltiness from the sea. I love it because it's fresh and citrusy, beautiful, crisp and clean, but yes, I feel they do use true bergamot in here. It's become a favourite amongst bergamot enthusiasts, and yes, the packaging is kind of very Frederick Malle-like, but don't let that deter you. If you can get your hands on this, it is a wonderful summer freshie, which I feel does use true ambergris in the composition. Next up, we're going to look at another, which I've got over here. We're going to look at Lorenzo Villoresi, Ambra. In 2014, Italian perfumer Lorenzo Villoresi created Ambra as part of his vintage collection. It's a re-release of an earlier release. This is a beauty, and it's very unusual and divisive. This one uses ambergris in both the heart and the base notes, and so that's really interesting. It really pushes that ambergris front and center. But the top notes support it. There's alamy, citrus and cardamom. The heart has oliban, myrrh and clove. And the base, we're looking at sandalwood, musk and precious woods. So a really complex fragrance, but one that remains transparent. We can sort of see that shift away from that velvety, creamy richness in the molecularly constructed ambergris fragrances. And here it retains some of the crisp cleanness, a sense of the sea. There is a bit of saltiness here, a little bit of balsamic kind of brininess, which I love in true ambergris fragrances. All those wonderful kind of spiced and resinous aspects only amplify the beauty of this perfume. I hope you can find some of this. It was recently re-released, so still on the market, but yes, quite an interesting one that people love and hate in equal measure. I don't know if everyone's ready for this kind of ambergris fragrance, but I adore it. Next up, we're going to go and hit hard Acqua de Parma Ambra. In 2015, as part of their Colonia series, Acqua de Parma created Ambra, and that's their iteration of ambergris. Here I feel it could be using true ambergris, and the notes pyramid is actually very obscure on this one. There's not a lot of information out there, but it does contain sea notes, ambergris and musk. And I really get a sense of all three of those. Musk does play quite a heavy role in supporting the ambergris. It does have a brininess, there's a certain kind of oceanic feel to it. I imagine some of those oceanic notes obviously synthetically created, but yes, it does have a bit of sophistication. It's stronger than their usual cologne type fragrances. I spritz this on and I probably get a good 6 to 8 hours out of it. yeah, an iteration of Ambergris, which I feel probably does use true Ambergris in there. It again doesn't have that creamy texture of some of the synthetic Ambergris, so certainly one to put under your nose if you get the opportunity. Next, we're going to look at Guerlain's Ambre Eternel. In 2015, Guerlain created Ambre Eternel. Now this one I did review in full as part of my YouTube channel, so check that one out. I'll put the link in the description below. This one's great. It focuses on ambergris as its top note, but it also has cardamom, cinnamon, and coriander. The heart has peach ylang ylang, which is lovely, sort of sweetish floral, and the base there is leather and woody notes. So this is a great one. It has a wonderful kind of waxy, husky feel to it. Whilst many of the ambergris fragrances I've just reviewed are quite transparent and briny, this one feels very animalic, and that might suggest a quality of ambergris which is less white and perhaps more gold or grey or something like that. It's just got a wonderful animalic feel to it. I likened it in my previous review as to what you might smell if you sniffed the back of an elephant's ear. It smells kind of sweaty in a good way. It smells kind of waxy and dusty, but it's a beautiful iteration of ambergris. Unfortunately, this one was discontinued, so probably not a big seller. I adore it. It's probably my favorite in the entire Absolute des Orients line. So certainly one to get your hands on if you're wanting a rich Middle Eastern style ambergris fragrance. In 2012, Thierry Vassar created Encens Mythique d'Orient for Guerlain, and this has fast become my favorite ambergris centric fragrance. My wife's behind the camera and she's pointing at us up going, mine too. Yeah, even though it has incense as part of its title and part of its focus, it has become very popular in the perfume world for its use of ambergris. And I have it confirmed by Guerlain, it does use true ambergris in very high doses. So it's got wonderful top notes. It has aldehydes, there's rose and saffron, and that sort of steeps over a base of incense, ambergris, and woods. So it's got a wonderful complexity, and this one has titanic sillage, titanic projection. It's, all those sort of incense notes and rosy type notes aside, the ambergris in this one is cutting through. It's briny and it's bright. What ambergris tends to do to a perfume is anchor it to your skin, so it works as a great anchor, but it's a bit like using the brightness and contrast filters on your screen. It kind of sharpens things and makes it a bit more brilliant, and that's truly what I get in this particular fragrance. I wore this, I guess maybe just after it was first released, and was constantly asked what it is I'm wearing. So much so that my wife began adopting it, and now it's become her signature, one of her signature scents. Everyone tends to relate it more to her than me these days. And then she had colleagues copycatting and buying it when they went overseas, and so it became this like slight hysteria here for a time, and it still remains one of the most beautiful ambergris centric fragrances I think you can buy. It has been discontinued, re-released in the Les Absolutes d'Orient line in similar bottles to the Ambre Eternel I just showed you. But I feel this particular version, the first version, is one where the ambergris really sings. The last in the series is Areej le Doré, Atlantic Ambergris II. Now, Atlantic Ambergris II came out in 2021, and it is a second release by Russian Adam, the perfumer. One was launched a few years ago, and this is the second batch he's created. I feel very honored to own this fragrance. It's a wonderful, floral green ambergris perfume. And you can tell by the juice in there that it's quite rich and complex. It has wonderful opening notes with Siberian pine, which gives it a lovely greenness. There's cardamom, ambergris of course. There's floral notes of champaca and jasmine. It has myrrh, cypress, and there's also orris and oak moss in here. When you smell this, he's used Atlantic Ambergris from Ireland, and it's quite unusual. Ireland is quite a good area for ambergris to wash up on its beaches, and Normally we hear of ambergris being used from Mauritius or from New Zealand, but Ireland has fast become one of the, I guess, little ambergris epicenters there too. This is a fabulous fragrance. It's not quite as animalic as I might have expected from an ambergris perfume, but it definitely gives you a sense of the sea. It gives you a sense of brininess and of balsamicness. A little bit of that sort of driftwood salt, lick your lips kind of dryness that I really enjoy. But I love the green notes that underpin it as well. That kind of cypress and pine gives it a bit of juiciness too. It's a wonderful counterbalance to the ambergris, and I think it's one of those perfumes which, as it macerates and steeps over time, it's going to improve more and more with age. It does use true ambergris in here, and I think in pretty good doses too. I want to know what your favourite ambergris perfumes are. I have a few others that I didn't touch on here today, but I'm always looking for great new suggestions. So if you have a perfume which trains its focus on that one particular note, drop it in the comments below. If you've got any questions about ambergris or you're not sure about anything I've mentioned in the video, please let me know too. I'll be happy to have a discussion or a bit of dialogue about it. And if you'd like to, just share this video or hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and then you'll be advised when I upload new material. Thank you for joining me today and indulging me, allowing me to talk to you about one of my favourite components in modern and ancient perfumery, I suppose. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll catch up with you next time.